man. I know you're based out of Charlotte there, so big shout out to the Hurricanes, the Panthers, and I guess the Bobcats as well. Me being a massive sports guy, I like to definitely put out the shout out to all the teams because either I voted for one of those teams at one point in terms of hoping that they can beat out a team that helped the Cowboys or the Penguins or the Lakers, and so just wanted to say thank you for having me, man.
Hey, of course. Well, thank you for the shout out. I mean, love when people, especially internationally, out in Canada, giving a shout out. So really appreciate it. Just tell us about yourself. You're huge into real estate, also known as the best looking man in Canada. Your words,
You
and
said it. Hey, you said it, and I guess the check's in the mail. But yeah, look, I've been very blessed to be born here in Toronto, Canada. To be exact, on the northern part of the city of Toronto, in an area called Rexdale. And for your out of country listeners and viewers, that's an area that generally doesn't have a lot of people to look up to. Maybe an area where if you're driving through it, you might be told to lock your doors and put your windows up, kind of thing. Definitely has a bad rap. But I mean, I was very sheltered from it because of the home that I grew up in, and my father and my mother, father being a taxi driver his whole life, my mother being a factory worker her whole life. I mean, I saw work ethic like I got to experience it at a very young age, and then my two older brothers, man. It's always a healthy reminder having two older brothers that you're closer to the bottom than you are to the top. But these two guys, both played mother and father to me at some point because my parents worked a lot. And I mean, I never once looked at it like, oh my God, I don't have love in my house, because the second my father came home, it was hugs and kisses. My mom, the same thing. But my two brothers played a massive role in keeping me out of trouble. I got into my fair share of it, but nothing too bad, right? And I guess for anybody who's maybe in that 15 to 20 25 kind of age group, man, if you can get past that 10 year, that decade period of not getting into a lot like big trouble where you're put in jail or even worse, right? We've all heard stories and know someone who something very negative has happened. I think if you in that decade period, if you can stay out of it, you're going to get a good chance in really making whatever you want out of yourself, right? And so that was instilled in me by my parents and my brother, and that allowed me to kind of venture off into trying different things. And what really stuck with me, not to bore everyone, but what really stuck with me at a very young age, 10, 12, 14, was I got this natural kind of talent where I'm positive. I have a lot of energy. You get older people telling you that it's infectious, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't fearful of knocking on doors, even back as a 6 and 8 year old, helping the teacher sell like Christmas ornaments door to door. But at that age of 12 to kind of 13 was when I got my first paper route, and man, I thought I was going to be selling papers my whole life because it was the first time I got paid to do what I naturally was good at and that I actually liked. And then I just took that. I took that talent, that passion, and ran with it. 15, 16, got a job at a shoe sales place, helping sprinters and marathon runners. Then went into banking for a few years. Got into car sales. Made a massive jump at 18 when I left kind of corporate world and salaried positions and went into commission sales. Changed the course of my life because that's when I made the decision, as the bank, great place, one of them, we have six major banks here in Canada, it was one of them. But they didn't move me up. They didn't allow me to be challenged more, because I didn't have the piece of paper, right? I didn't have the diploma or the degree. And so that's when I decided, okay, you know what? I'm never going to let anybody write my check. They're not going to be able to decide what the ceiling is going to be for me. I'm going to go into commission sales. At the age of late 18, early 19, I went into car sales, just never looked back. And then 3 years of that, I realized that there was somewhat of a ceiling, because looking around, amazing guys and gals, I still speak to them till this day, and that was 19 years ago, 20 years ago almost, that like they were there for 20, 25 years and kind of capped at whatever it was, a buck 50, 200, 250,000, amazing money, like, don't get me wrong. But I knew there was one more ticket item that I didn't challenge myself with, and that happened to be real estate. I also wanted to invest into it, and I got into real estate exactly 17 years ago, and I've been lucky enough now to grow a pretty cool organization. We have 54 real estate agents. I have about 6, 7 support staff. All in, like, those 6, 7, 3 of them are in leadership roles. Allows me time to do stuff like this, produce a lot of content, and hopefully spread the virus that I like, which is positivity.
I love that. Thank you so much for such a great background. So you talked about your work ethic, your family, and how you got into commission sales, and now 17 years ago, pretty much on the dot, you got into real estate. So let's dive deeper into the real estate side. I mean, I want to hear what got you into, or why did you leave automobile sales to get into real estate?
Yeah, so I mean, I looked around, and saw people investing into real estate. My parents never really got involved in that, other than, which is when you compare it to other real estate investors, was definitely not a big thing, but it really set the ground for me, where my parents always rented out the basement. And that, having 3 boys, we didn't have everything, but we also didn't grow up with nothing, right? We got to play all the sports, and sometimes get kind of the cool clothes and stuff like that, whatever my parents could have afforded at that time. But what helped offset the cost was renting out the basement apartment, right? And so I saw my mom do that. But then I had friends, parents, like, they owned 4 properties and 6 properties. And then on the street that I lit, like, probably spent most of my life on, there was an older Italian guy that I saw cut the grass every summer of 7, 8 houses, and then shovel the snow of those same homes. And I just asked him, like, what the heck are you, like, just like a, do you do lawn maintenance, is that's what you do? And he's like, no, I own these properties and I rent them out. And that started to really click with me as well, added to the point that I knew, as a salesperson, I wanted to take on the challenge of helping people buy and sell. Not, I mean, my organization's built differently now, where we help a lot more investors, and I'll touch on that. But at that time, I was like, look, I think I can actually do this business, like, just helping people buy and sell, mixed in with the fact that I wanted to invest into real estate. It was a perfect match for me, right? And that's why I got started into it. I never realized it was going to be what it is now. And I know that's kind of cliche at times, like, I didn't dream of what it is now, but it's really the truth, man. Like, I saw myself selling real estate, maybe having a team member, like an assistant helping me, an admin person, but to have taken it to where it is now, like, not to impress people, but really to impress upon people where all the data is coming from, the credibility is coming from. I mean, out of like, in Canada, my team places, I think, top 3 in the last decade, either the top team, second team, or the third team, in all of Canada, for Royal LePage, which is Canada's largest real estate franchise. Now, we're based in Toronto, which a lot of people don't know, but Toronto is the biggest real estate board in North America, more like bigger than New York, LA, Chicago. there's a little over 76,000 real estate agents in a 50-mile radius. Like if you throw a stone outside, you'll hit a real estate agent, right? And so it's very, very competitive. But to have this team of people that are bought in, we have a vision to consistently be number one, because look, we're making a game out of this, right? Not that money's the end all be all, but I mean, if we're gonna go out and make some money, we might as well make bags of it. Like, why not, right? Like, if you're gonna go out and work, go work your ass off, and see where the chips fall. And so that's where we're at right now, right? Like, we're really seeing how far we can take this. Personally, I'm seeing how far I can take the God-given talent that I was given, and again, let's see where the chips fall.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the top three over the past decade. That's very incredible. So let's talk more about your current team now. So that was 17 years ago why you got into it. So let's talk about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so what happened, like, going into maybe year two, year three, we I had a partner who passed away about 4 years ago, and I do have a current partner in my real estate company now. But about 3 years in, about 2 to 3 years in, we started to realize that, look, there is only so many hours in the day, right? You do need to sleep. I'm not all about like hustle porn, work 24 hours a day kind of thing. You got to get your rest, but we weren't going to be able to help as many families as we wanted by just myself and my late partner. And so then that's when we started to realize, okay, look, let's really start to build an organization where we as the owners get to do what we are naturally good at and what we like to do. The pattern's the same, and it's always been the same. I believe it will always be the same in my life, which is go all in on what you're passionate about and what you're good at. What that happened to be 14 years ago, 15 years ago, was that we like to educate people on, like, today, in today's day and age, 2022, it's webinars and stuff like that. But we've always liked to do live events. And so instead of just speaking to one buyer, seller, or investor, why don't we pack up a room of 50 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, educate everyone at once, and we only have to do it that one time. And then whoever wants to work with us because they like our style and stuff like that, great. And whoever doesn't, they just take our information and work with someone else. That's okay. There's enough people out there, right? But to do that, we needed people to actually show the properties. Like, if VJ, you were going to go buy a property, it's not fair to you as the buyer that if you call on me to go see a property and I'm not available because I'm doing an education a webinar, or I'm meeting with a client one on one, right? And so we needed a team member to do that. So our operation really started with an admin person assistant, because we realized very, very quickly we suck at paperwork, like the organization of it, like making sure that because in Ontario, or here in our province, you got to keep the paperwork for 7 years and all that. But to keep it neatly organized and send off the emails, get stuff signed and all that, it's just not our expertise. Back then, we also found that another expertise that we did not have and did not like was just accounting. Like we know revenues and expenses and P&Ls and all that kind of stuff, but like the day-to-day accounting, it just bored the heck out of us, right? So we had an admin person full-time just handling that. But she was licensed, but she never wanted to practice in real estate. So we needed to get a team member that can go show the properties for us. To go put up, if you're going to put your home for sale or condo for sale, you need to put a little lockbox on, right? To get the keys and all that stuff. The for sale signs on properties. So we just grew our team really out of necessity at the start. Then, as we were educating the public, buyers, sellers, and investors, real estate agents would come to these events, and at first maybe we were thinking they were just coming there to steal our clients, which again we were perfectly fine with. More than enough to go around. That too will be a pattern in what in how we do business. But as these real estate agents start to come to our events, they're like, guys, like, are you guys hiring? And we're like, hiring for what? Like, do you want to go just show the properties? They're like, no, can we be part of what you guys are doing in educating? And then we started to say, okay, look, we're getting this asked enough times now. Why don't we start to bring on real estate agents? They can work with their clients, but we'll also kind of teach them how we do business development. We went really quickly. In fact, too quickly. Like, success can kill. Everybody wants it, and there's a lot of people who will work hard to get it, but to maintain it, oh, it's very, very tough, especially if you move too quickly. And I've done that a couple of times where I've had to pay for it financially and just in resources. And what I mean by that is that we grew probably in a year and a half period up to like 55 agents. The problem, and the reason I say success can kill, because we had no systems. We had no idea what the heck we were doing. Like, we were making it up as we went along. We had no onboarding system. We had really didn't have like a basic training manual. Not even a training manual in our head, right? It was just like, come on board, and we're gonna throw you in the deep end. You'll figure out how to swim. Now that works for some people, but for others it doesn't. And that's not a true business. That's not a good. It's not a positive culture, right? And so we grew way too fast. What actually then ended up happening is we over promised and under delivered. And so people started to leave. The second time around, though, so then we went down to probably, I don't know, like 15, 20 agents or real estate agents. But then the second time around, we really took our time in building out the proper systems. And now I'm happy to say that we're at a place, again, very, very grateful that we get to decide who we bring on our team. We brought it back up to 54 agents now. What we've done is that we've left myself and my current business partner. He handles one part of the organization. I handle the front facing stuff like this. And we decided that, okay, what we're going to do is actually put people in leadership roles. It's not going to be all on Jazz. It's not going to be all on my business partner. We're going to actually develop more leaders within. And so we have a VP that handles kind of all things sales and marketing. We have a director of team operations that handles everything to do with those 52 agents. So we don't have a revolving door anymore. They're staying around because they're getting a lot of value. We have a creative director that helps us with all of our media content. We then have an REC investment coach. Like, he's the investment coach for our clients, but he also trains our agents on how to educate people on the phones, right? And so just having like an actual structure now it's day and night. It's apples and oranges compared to how we were set up in the past.
Takeaways I got from that is take your time when you're scaling your business. And so just backing up just a little bit about when you first started hiring people, did you have the revenue to support full-time staff, or how did you fund it? Just coming from a startup culture.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's funny that you bring that up, because right now in the media company, from the ground up, we're very much in a startup stage. We're 10 months in. Feels like 10 minutes actually. 10 months in at the time of this recording in 2022, where we we never really have the revenues right away to support it, right? I believe in myself so much. I believe in my team so much, but at the end of the day, it kind of falls on me, right? Like, I also have a business partner in the media company, but the faith and the belief has to start with me, because if the team picks up and goes one day, if my business partners leave me, right, I still have enough belief and faith in myself that I'm going to keep it going. And so I knew, even back into your question about the real estate company, we were never really at the start at a stage where we could have afforded to have the full-time staff. It almost came from a mindset that we can't afford not to. Like, we had to have these people so we could do more of the high producing revenue activities, right? Because when we were doing the accounting, the day-to-day stuff, I mean, I remember I remember the phone lines going out just because of, like, we actually paid the bills, but it was just because of something wrong with the phone companies, and we had to spend, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 6 hours or something just getting them up and running because our agents needed it, right? That's how their clients were getting a hold of them. We by spending that time, it took us away from a meeting that would have earned us like 10x what we were spending in like actual dollars on the phone bill, 100x, you know what I mean? And so I've always come from the mindset that you need to hire, and hire quickly. Like, don't spend too much time in getting, like, in paralysis by analysis, and getting stuck in who's gonna be the right person by looking at a resume, right? I mean, at least if you do one of these like video calls, you can get a slightly better sense. But the truth of the matter is, I've had enough experience now bringing people on board, and I was one of them. Like, if you're gonna interview me for a job, I'm definitely gonna reverse engineer my conversation based on the job that I'm applying for. You get some, I don't have a better way, nicer way of saying it. They're idiots. If you're applying for a job and you're not, like, at least letting me hear what I want to hear, that, like, why are you even applying for the job? You know what I mean? Now, there's the second phase of that they have small exaggerations on their resume, and you're not going to be able to really answer the question if they're going to be a fit for your culture, fit for your organization, until you actually bring them on, right? And so I think you should bring on people as fast as you possibly can, and then make the decision if they're going to be a right fit for your culture, and if you're going to be a right fit for them, right? Like, this is never me thinking I'm up here as the boss and Yas as my cinematographer, you're below me because I pay you. That's not the conversation. I expect you to work your ass off, and I think if you're with me more than 3 months, my work ethic, just like my parents' work ethic rubbed off on me, is going to rub off on people. And if it doesn't, I suss those people out real quick. Like, I know. I'll know, right? And so, again, don't need you to work as hard as I do, but I need you to have some of that grit in you. Otherwise, we're just not going to work, because I move very quickly. I speak fast. I need you to catch on quickly. I'm going to give you all the resources that you need at some point. But it's not that, like, you're beneath me because I pay you shit. Like, that just, it's weird to me that some employers and some bosses have that mindset. And then there's, like, there's no surprise at the end when you see you have that revolving door, because who wants to be spoken down to, right? Like, who wants to be called out? I don't have a problem calling out Yas in a one-on-one setting, but I'm never going to call him out in front of 17 people or 7 people, because, like, what good is that going to do to his morale? And I think it feeds the ego of the bosses, and that's why they go there. But I think you're going to be able to do a lot better, keep people for longer, have more people coming to you, if you actually have the mindset that you're working for them and that they're
I
not
love
working
that
for you.
that mindset where you're kind of seeing them as equals rather than they're beneath you just because they work for you. So really, really solid mindset.
And VJ, I'll even take it a little bit further. Like my guys, they cut this content, so they hear all this stuff all the time, right? And so and, like, they're behind me now, and they're all over the place. But here's the thing: it's even more than that. For me, see, I know the 3% that I think I'm better than anybody in my organization on. That's the confidence. It's not cockiness. It's confidence because it's result based. There's no one in my organization that has ever sold more products and service than this guy right here, hands down. In fact, you can probably put everybody on my team, all my real estate agents together. In the lifetime of 27 years of sales and service, there's nobody. In fact, put them all together, the results are nowhere near mine. So that's the 3%. But for 97% of things, they're every single one of them are better at stuff than I am. Right? And because of the fact that I need, though, to get that 97% of stuff done, I can't treat them like asses. I can't be an asshole to them because I need them. So it's quite basic in my head, right? Like, I know I need Yas. I know I need Chiquita. I know I need the others. Okay? But if I treated them like ass, well, how long are they going to stay here with me? And then I got to go through the process over and over and over again. Right? So the 3%, I'm like, my ears are shut. There's very few people that I'm even going to listen to when it comes to the selling and the sales process. And the crew knows that around me. You need to sell something. We need to get Jazz on the phones. So they have a vested interest, all of them. Some of them are like actually have a vested interest to the point where every time I make a dollar, they make money. So that's a nice setting, right? Like they're actually tied to my revenues. Okay, anybody in my leadership roles, and then everyone else, the more revenues we bring in, the longer they're going to have a job in a culture that's a lot of fun. We eat a lot, we drink a lot. Not that we're alcoholics by any means, but we like to have a lot of fun. It's kind of laid back here. If like I'm in a t-shirt and a hoodie every single day, so I don't really come in here and tell people to wear suits and ties. I want them to be comfortable. It's a cool culture like that. But the vested interest that they have is how do we make Jazz do what he does best, which is be in front of people on the phones and meeting people one on one, doing podcasts and webinars like this, which then allows them to play in their likes as well. In fact, any one of the leader, like the people in my leadership part of the organization, and majority of our staff, not all of them, majority of our staff, they're not actually doing the job that they got hired for. Meaning they came to us to do X. Within 6 months, a year and a half, 3 years, I found out what they really like to do and reverse engineered a role for them. Now there's people that are in the role that they're in now, but they just haven't gone through that progression in time. Because once I saw that Steven came to me to do a landing page, and he's done 7 landing pages in 7 years for me, that's it. But his real passion and his face lit up when he got to do more of what he liked to do, which is be more creative. Because landing pages, yeah, there's a creativity aspect to it, but I think it's more science than art. And so he liked to play in the art. And so he, once he got to do that, he worked harder. It wasn't like maybe at 5:30 he clocks out here physically, but then he doesn't mind doing extra work at home, right? And so that's, I think, what I would want to articulate to people watching and listening that are in leadership roles. Really find a way that consistently ask how you can help your staff, and then actually help them, and you'll find that they'll stay longer, they'll be happier, which equals more productivity.
I think that's really, really powerful advice. Thank you for that. Let's back up a little bit to the culture side. You talked about having a good relationship with your team and going out drinking and all that. So when you're interviewing someone or hiring someone, do you do a cultural kind of check, or how do you?
Yeah, that's a good question, Vijay. No, because I've been in sales and service for so long, yeah, my gut, it's big, like physically. But like, I got that, like, what do you call it? Like tuition, like intuition. That I just know that I'm gonna make a call on someone either way. Yes, they're gonna be working here. No, and I've been wrong. Like, this is not, I just know every single time. What I'm confident is going with my gut feeling. Um, and people have asked me before, like, what questions do you ask? It's so tough. Like, for example, first time you and I've ever spoken. I think you, like, were 7 seconds pre-recording. Like, we didn't spend any time talking, but through your smile, through you saying, "Hey, Jazz, I watch you on Instagram," I caught that. I didn't even make a comment on it, but I caught it. Those one or two things is, I'm gonna make a call on you to say, okay, I want to know more about, like, I want to spend more time with this guy. Okay, so when I'm interviewing someone, I'm basing it on those two, three, four things. What I found myself asking every single interview now is the question if they have siblings. I don't know what the heck brought this about. Maybe I asked it once or twice and someone liked it, and then I was like, all right, let me just keep doing it. I don't know what it was, right? Why I started. I have figured out why I ask it now, though. excuse me, because for me, as I mentioned about my two older brothers, it gave me like thick skin. Like my brothers, as I mentioned, act as mother and father. They would beat the shit out of me at times because I was the little brother. And it was like, go do this. One brother was like, go do this. If I said no, he let me know about it physically. And I love him till this day because he gave me thick skin. The other brother played it differently because he was 10 years older than me. What he did was no problem, buddy. You're not going to do what I asked you to do. You're not coming out with me tonight. And I loved going out with him because at 20, when he was 21, 22, me being 11 and 12, his friends snuck me into clubs and stuff like that. Right? So it was kind of, I felt real. Imagine coming back to your 12-year-old friends and saying, dude, I went to a club last night. Like, so it was just like, there was consequences for me not listening to what they needed done. That gave me thick skin. I also realized at times, myself and my brothers, we butted heads. And there was friction. And we didn't like each other. We didn't talk to each other. But that lasted 2 days. Maybe 3 days. Most of the time 2 hours. But we were brothers. We got mad love for each other. Okay? And even when we had the friction, we had still had love for each other. And till this day, I'm 40 years old. So one's 46. The other, he just turned 47. And the other's turning 50 in August. I still address them as older brothers. Like, there's just a massive respect there, okay? The reason I know why I ask people who I'm hiring if they have siblings, and I think there has to be one or two people on my team that don't have siblings, so you don't not get hired here because you don't have siblings. That's not the point. But when they say yes, I generally know that they're going to be able to take the fact that Jazz talks sometimes a lot about his passions, and he's obsessed. Like, I'm obsessed to see where I can take these talents. And amongst themselves, like right now, if I were to take the camera and show you, because of our renovations, the way that these guys are set up, it's like they're on top of each other. Okay? There has to be moments where they get on each other's nerves. In those times when they get on each other's nerves, you don't need to talk. You don't need to love each other. But you need to respect each other. And so when I think you have, like VJ, do you have siblings? Do you have older brother, younger?
I have an older sister.
You have an older sister, and if you don't mind me asking, what's the age difference?
5 years.
5 years. I'm sure you can think of a couple of times where you and your sister didn't see eye to eye on things.
Yeah.
Right, but you got like, if you don't mind me asking, I don't mean to pry, but like, do you guys still talk to each other? You see each other?
Yeah. No, lots of respect for each other. Lots of love.
Right, and love for each other, and so you can understand why I think I started asking that question in interviews, because there's definitely times where I'm sure Steven gets on Chiquita's nerves, and Chiquita gets on Nikki's nerves, and Nikki gets on Laura's nerves, and everybody gets like. Laura gets on everyone's nerves, and so like, but we still have that respect, and we when the chips are down and someone's like, I just went through, man, and it's so funny because I think it's the first time that I'm talking about it out loud. This last 3-month period, there hasn't been a time that I've had my full starting lineup. I'm a sports guy, as I mentioned earlier on. I have not had my whole squad in a room together for over a 5-day period ever this whole year. Someone's been missing. Yas went to LA for 14, 15 days and then to Ottawa, okay? Steven was on vacation for his birthday. Laura had some family stuff she was dealing with. Tyler was just had a baby. My business partner in my real estate company had his father pass away, then had to go down to back to Alberta to go like take care of all that stuff. There's never been a time for more than a 5-day period that I've had my whole starting lineup, and yet I've had the highest revenue producing days in my career, last 45-day period of all time. There's one reason like deep down in my heart why that's happened is because when Yas was away, Nikki pulled up his socks, my other videographer. When Steven was away, Tyler pulled up his socks. When Tyler was away, Laura pulled up her socks. When Laura, like it just boom, boom, like we need, like they know. When we're all together, we get on each other's nerves and all that shit happens. But when they weren't individually here, Like when we weren't here all together, someone kind of pulled up their socks for the other person. And man, you can't just tell that shit in a webinar. I mean, I apologize, in an interview. You know what I mean? That happens going through like experience.
Wow. So it's the culture and team just seem to be the most important reason why you're so successful right now.
Number one, Vijay, because like I said to you, like for all the bravado I have and the confidence I have, like you can tell me to call, like I don't care who I gotta reach out to. Like that stuff doesn't worry me at all. My father couldn't speak really well English when he came to India, and me being a 6 7 year old. And so when I wanted McDonald's, my father said, "You want it? Go ask. Go to the front and tell her what you want, because I don't know what the heck I'm gonna say to her." Like he didn't know really English, right? And so as a 6 year old, I'm going up to McDonald's and ordering it, and so you build that, you just build the reps, right? So I'm never scared for a sales call. Like I can cold call, I can warm call, I can do all that. None of that stuff concerns me. And I don't get worried when we don't make sales. I know it's just there's some cycles to it, and I can get myself through it. But that's all I'm really good at. Like that's my talent. That's my raw talent. Shit, to run an organization that leaves a lot of holes. And so because I need a lot of people, I had to find ways to get people to buy in on this vision, on this dream. And the only way that happens, if you're nice to them. I don't think, I'm almost certain, you'll have to ask them. I don't think I've ever raised my voice to anyone. I know for a fact I've never raised my voice to any one of them in front of someone else. There might have been like 3 times in our relationships with like the whole crew that I had to pull somebody aside and just saying, you're like, you're screwing up. And it's like, you're doing like, you got everything here, but you're not taking advantage of it. What are you doing here? Like, use me as the trampoline and move on, you know but the like, I spend easily 30% of my day, sometimes more, but every minimum 30% of my day, accumulative in the day, of watching how Yas came into my room, how Laura walked into the office, how Steven came into the office, how Tyler might have taken, because he's working from home, how he might have taken my call. Because that's how much I know if I can push that day or not push. Because they have lives outside of this world. Like, we call it Jazz's world in terms of the digital landscape of all the shit that we're up to. And but not for a second do I think that they're always living in Jazz's world all day long. They have partners, they got pets, they got kids, they got their own insecurities, they got financial trouble. Like everyone has their own shit, right? But I also know enough that when they're bringing a like not a bad attitude, but just like bringing some of that to work, that's okay. My job is to try to hopefully make this environment the escape for them, right? Like, because that's what it is. Like, this is not an escape for me personally. This is my life. Like, nobody can really tell when I'm working or playing anymore, right? I can't even tell anymore. Like, it's just all kind of like work, and it's play. It's, same thing at home, and I'm working at home, but I'm also playing at home. I got 2 little boys, right? So I get the family stuff as well. But if I could, and I'm not perfect at it. I'm on my journey, that's for sure. Where I really want to make this a safe haven for people to come and be themselves. And even if I like people who have some chips on their shoulders. I like it. I think it helps you, as long as you don't like let it make you a mean person. Like, don't be a mean girl, like from the movie, kind of like, don't be that. That's kind of weird. But there's nothing wrong with a chip on your shoulder, man. I know, because I got Pringles on mine, and I use that shit to my advantage for sure, because it keeps me going at times when things get tough. But I definitely want to make this place a safe haven where you can explore and really like take your ability to the next level.
I think that's so important. Having, like, goes back to the culture again. It's people are excited to come to work because they feel safe, they feel welcome, they feel like they can be their authentic self. So that's amazing that you built that.
And you know, sometimes that's in my own head, and sometimes it, like, even, you know, I speak to my VP Laura, and I speak to my really, like, he's become kind of my right hand guy now, Tyler. Not a lot gets done in my sales organization, like the real estate organization, without that guy. He's 30. Came to me when he was 22. He was our waiter downstairs, you know, at the restaurant. He leads one of the most important, like, he leads the most integral part of our sales organization. In 7 8 years, was the waiter. This is not even his role, bro. Like, he didn't go to school for this. It's not even what he ever dreamt of. But me as the sales guy, like the guy who has all that confidence, I don't really make a lot of decisions without Tyler, because I know how much he knows some of our software that we use. And I was just speaking to him and Laura about the fact that, like, you know, we have this cool culture, and they believe it. But I think where it really hits home is when we get an email from somebody, or a text message, or a DM, or something from somebody who did leave us, for whatever reason, right? Like, to better themselves, all that kind of stuff. And I love when people leave us, like, because I do think that we hopefully were a 0.0001% of positivity in their life, and then I think we did our job. But when they say, shit, I really now know how good it is, you know? And I don't mean, like, I don't need to hear that from an ego, like, oh my God, we're awesome. But that just tells us that, okay, like, you came here, and then you left, and you went somewhere else, and you actually, like, you still are saying that. That's important, man. That means a lot to me. That people, when they do leave, they miss this, right? Because that means that tells me that we're on the right path.
That's great. Do you have a piece of advice for someone who's just getting started in the entrepreneurship journey?
Um, I, you know, I get that question a lot, and I think if you look back, and I know my team would tell you, I probably answer this 1,000 different ways depending on how I feel and what we kind of spoke about. Let me give you two things. Number one is, have a lot of patience for you to think that someone who is showcasing a lot of success on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, that they did that overnight, is probably the most naive thing that I've ever heard. And what you the most naive thing that you can think of, because anything of true value in business and having longevity, I just don't know anybody who did it quickly. I've yet to come across somebody who has been very successful in business. And one of the ways to tell if you're successful in business, the one scoreboard, is financially. Who has done it for a long time. If they it all happened overnight. You know, unless you win the lottery, unless it was an inheritance or something like that. So patience would be number one. And I think number two would be, and it's obviously been the theme of our talk today, is to think that you can do it on your own. There's only so many hours in the day to be on this journey in entrepreneurship, and help a lot of people get your product or service sold, and then service the people, like, actually have a good product, actually have a good service. It's going to take help. And so then you need to be okay with giving up control, because done will always be better than perfect, right? Like, you need to allow people to do stuff, even if you could do it better, or you think you can do it better. Because at bare minimum, it frees up time for you as the entrepreneur to actually do those high producing revenue activities, meeting people, helping them with your product or service, coming up with new ideas. And you can only really do that if you let go of control, right? I do 15, 18 pieces of content a day on all the platforms. In the 4 years that I've been doing it, my cinematographer will tell you, my main graphic designer, like my creative director Steven, will tell you, I'm gonna say a total for both of them who kind of really play in my world. My media team helps another business, like we help real estate agents and mortgage brokers produce content, so that's slightly different. But for my own content, VJ, in the last 4 years that we've been doing this consistently, I think I've asked them to change something 5 times. Like the color of an image. Hey, yes, like, can you change this video? Maybe 5 times in 4 years. Why? Because, like, I would rather him give me that video, let me put it up, and go make another one. Rather than me, you know what I mean? Like, if it's a big, like, if it's completely, like, sometimes we spell shit wrong all the time. And so 50% of the time we leave it. And he speaks like English at a like 7 out of 10 right now. He's still learning how to spell English. Like, and I'm not like it's the truth, right? You know what I mean? He's better with French. You know what I mean? And but so sometimes he just doesn't get the context of even what I'm saying. He'll spell the title wrong. I'd rather him just go make another video, leave the spelling. You know what I mean? I mean, for the last 3 years, I've been spelling paid, Payed, not even knowing, just subconsciously. And none of my clients have ever called me on it. Nobody's ever given a crap. I just decided to change it recently because I realized it on spell check, where you really need to. And I'm going off on a tangent, but you really need to a have the patience, and b like realize that you can't do this stuff.
Got it. Thank you so much for both of that. And then what is your favorite business book?
My favorite business book. Look, I don't know if it's a business book per se. I think it's definitely the probably the number one personal development book. I'm more into personal development books than business books. So the personal development book for me, all time, hands down, is Seven Habits of Highly Effective People from the late great Dr. Stephen Covey. But if you ask me about a business book, it's a very underrated book. But it helped me early on with content creation. It was a Gary Vee book where it was it's called Ask Gary Vee, which he used to have a show, but he turned it into a book. It's probably like I think he sold the least amount of copies of that book, but for me it was just the one that I caught on to, the first one I ever read. It's definitely not his most popular book, but that helped me with a lot of thoughts and execution around business, because he's grew a lot of businesses very quickly as well, and very effectively. And so I would probably say that's probably one of my favorite business books. But I'm way more into the personal development stuff, like the Anthony Robbins, Jack Canfield, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I probably have read and heard that, I don't know, 20 times, 21 times. It's one that I go back to over and over. Every time I read it, I catch on to something differently. And I'm also in a different part of my life. I probably read that. I'm 40, as I mentioned. The first time I probably read that, I was probably 25, 26. So, in 15 years, I've changed a little too, right?
Of course. Well, thank you so much. And the last question I have for you is, where can our audience get in touch with you?
VJ, man, I appreciate you just having me on, man. It's cool. I'm a kid from Rexdale, and a lot of people told me that I wouldn't be really doing much, and now I'm talking to a guy in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's really really cool. You've given me more than I needed. I'm not hard to find, brother. I'm all over the place. Just Google my name and then consume me the way you want to consume me. I produce content on all the platforms, long form, short form, and everything in between. Google my name, first and last name, Jazz Takhar, and you can consume me the way you want to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll put all this in the show notes. Jazz, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for your
I
time.
really appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.